My parents tried to kick me out of their house because my own brother had nowhere to live with his family. I grew up in a family where I was an afterthought. No, scratch that, I was an inconvenience. My younger brother? The golden child, the favorite, the one who could do no wrong. Me? I was just there. Birthdays? He got the big party, the brand new bike, the gaming console. I got a half-hearted, "Oh yeah, happy birthday." If I was lucky, maybe a pair of socks. Christmas? He got piles of gifts. I got to watch. Achievements? He barely had to try, and they'd shower him with praise. Me? Straight A's, scholarships, hard work, none of it mattered. If anything, it just made them more annoyed with me. "Stop showing off," they'd say. "Why can't you just be normal?" It wasn't just neglect. It was the constant criticism, the way they'd pick apart everything I did. If I made a mistake, I'd never hear the end of it. But if he screwed up? Oh well. Boys will be boys. It's not his fault. You should be helping him instead of judging him. And I tried. God, I tried. I thought if I just worked harder, if I was better, they'd see me too. But I was wasting my time. They didn't want to see me. They wanted a scapegoat, someone to blame when things went wrong, someone to make their perfect son look even better by comparison. By the time I was a teenager, I knew the truth. I didn't belong in that house. It wasn't a home. It was just a place I was trapped in until I could escape. So I did. I worked my ass off, took every extra shift, saved every penny. I left as soon as I legally could and never looked back. No calls, no visits, no nostalgia. I built my own life, a life where I didn't have to beg for love or validation. A life where I mattered. I thought I had finally left it all behind. Turns out I was wrong. Update 1. I didn't expect this much support. Thanks for the comments. And yes, I haven't spoken to them in years. That is, until they found me. It started with a message. A simple, unassuming notification on my phone, one I almost ignored out of habit. After all, the only people who messaged me these days were friends, co-workers, people I actually cared about. But the name on the screen made my stomach drop. My mother. For a second, I just stared at it, my brain scrambling to process why she'd be reaching out after all these years. And then, before I could even decide whether to open it, my phone rang. It was them. I don't know what I expected. Maybe some awkward small talk. Maybe a half-assed attempt at pretending they cared about how I'd been. What I got was straight to the point. No greeting. No, we miss you. Just, it's about your brother. Of course it was. Apparently life hadn't been kind to him. Bad decisions, bad luck, who knows? All I could gather was that he was in deep trouble. His wife had left him. He had kids to take care of. He'd lost his job. And now, according to them, he had nowhere to go. You have a house, my mother said, as if that automatically meant I was supposed to open my doors. You're doing well for yourself. I should have seen it coming, but somehow I was still stunned. They didn't care about reconnecting. They didn't call because they missed me, because they regretted how they treated me. They called because they needed something. Again, they needed me to fix it, to clean up the mess, to be the backup plan for their precious son now that his life had fallen apart. You can't just turn your back on family, my father chimed in, like it was that simple. But that's the thing. They weren't my family. Not in the way that mattered. And the worst part? They weren't even asking. They were expecting. Like this was some natural order of things. Like I was obligated to drop everything and sacrifice myself for the golden child. You have a responsibility, my mother pressed. He's your brother. It was surreal. Years of silence, years of nothing, and then boom, this. No apology. No acknowledgement of the past. Just straight up demands, like I owed them something. I let them talk, let them guilt trip, let them pile on every manipulative trick in the book. And the whole time, all I could think was, nothing has changed. They haven't changed. They never will. I hung up. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to amusement. Because honestly, they really thought I'd just say yes. Update 2. Yeah, they got my number through distant relatives. They didn't even try to apologize or have a normal conversation. Just straight up demands. I didn't hesitate. I didn't dance around it. I didn't try to soften the blow. I just said no, firmly, clearly. No explanations, no apologies, no wiggle room. And for a second, there was silence. Complete, stunned silence. Like they physically couldn't comprehend that I wasn't immediately bending over backward for them. Then the guilt tripping started. You have a house. Are you really so selfish that you won't help your own family? He's your brother. Think about the children. Do you want them to be homeless? I barely got a word in. It was a full-on attack, a barrage of manipulation disguised as concern. But I just let them talk. I'd heard it all before. Then came the personal attacks. You've always been so selfish. We raised you, and this is how you repay us. If you were a good son/daughter, you wouldn't even hesitate. And that was it. That was the moment it all became crystal clear. They didn't care about me. They never had. I wasn't a person to them. I was a resource, a backup plan, a tool to be used when it was convenient. When I left, they let me go without a second thought. When I succeeded, they didn't reach out. But now that their golden child was in trouble, suddenly I was family again. Suddenly I was important, but not as a sibling, not as a son/daughter, just as a solution to their problem. And for the first time, I felt nothing. No guilt, no second guessing, just the quiet, liberating realization that I didn't owe them anything. I'm not responsible for him, I said calmly. And then, for the first time, I hung up on them. I half expected them to call back immediately to keep pushing, but they didn't. Instead, I got the passive-aggressive texts, the dramatic guilt-ridden messages, and then the final stage, rage. Apparently, I was the worst person in the world now. I was a terrible sibling, a horrible child, a disgrace. They were painting me as the villain, twisting the story, making sure everyone knew that I had abandoned my poor, struggling brother and his innocent children. The truth didn't matter. They didn't care about my side. They never had. But the funniest part? They actually thought any of this would work on me. Update 3. They seriously thought I would just say yes immediately? They didn't even try to pretend to be decent people. And now they're making me the villain in front of the entire family. The call started the next day. First, it was my aunt, a woman I hadn't spoken to in years, acting like we were the closest family in the world. Sweetheart, I just heard what happened. I know things weren't always easy between you and your parents, but this is different. Your brother needs you. His kids need you. I didn't even entertain it. Just told her I wasn't discussing it and hung up. Then came the texts. You're turning your back on family? How can you be so heartless? I always knew you were selfish, but this is a new low. Most of these were from people who never gave a damn about me before. Some were distant cousins, some were family friends I barely remembered. And every single one of them had the same message: give in. Do what they want. Sacrifice yourself for the golden child. I ignored them. Then, finally, the brother himself reached out. Unlike my parents, he actually pretended to care. I know we weren't always close. He started, as if that was some mutual decision and not the result of years of favoritism. But I really need your help. My kids, they don't deserve this. Please, just let us stay for a little while. Just until I get back on my feet. It would have been almost convincing if I didn't know him better. So I asked him straight up, why me? A pause. Then a week. Because you're doing well. You can afford it. And there it was. The truth. Not because we're family. Not because he missed me. Not because he regretted how things were when we were kids. But because I was the only option left. The backup plan. The safety net. The last resort now that everything else had crumbled. I told him no. At first, he played the victim. The desperate single father, the struggling man who just needed a little kindness. But when he realized I wasn't budging, the mask slipped. You think you're better than us, don't you? He snapped. Just because you got lucky in life? Lucky. Lucky. As if I hadn't worked for everything I had. As if I hadn't clawed my way out of the life they forced me into. As if my success wasn't mine, but something I just stumbled into while he, the golden child, was unfairly thrown into hardship. You're gonna regret this. He spat. You're turning your back on your own blood. And when you need help one day, no one's gonna be there for you. And that was the moment I truly realized it. They never saw me as an equal. They never saw me as family. I was only ever a tool, a resource, a last-minute solution to their problems. And now that I refused, I was nothing to them. Good. Update 4. I'm actually in shock. Even people who never gave a damn about me suddenly think they have the right to dictate what I should do. I blocked them. Every single one of them. The guilt-tripping aunts, the distant cousins who suddenly cared, the family friends who popped up out of nowhere. And, of course, my parents and my brother. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. That they'd get the message and move on. But no. My mother tried calling from different numbers. Left voicemails dripping with fake sadness, playing the grieving, heartbroken mother. I don't understand how you could do this to us. After everything we did for you. We raised you. We gave you a home. And now you're abandoning your own family? My father took a more direct approach. His messages weren't sad, they were angry, furious. You think you're better than us now? You're a disgrace. Don't come crawling back when you need help, because we won't be there. As if they ever were. But the one that got me, the one that almost made me laugh, was from my brother. Wow. So this is who you are now? You'd rather see my kids suffer than just be a decent human being? Right. Because I was the problem here. Not him. Not his bad decisions. Not his entitlement. I sat with it for a while, wondering if I should say something. If I should have one last conversation, just to end it on my terms. In the end, I did. I called my parents. One last time. They picked up immediately, probably thinking I'd finally caved. I didn't. I just want to be clear about something, I said, my voice calm. I don't owe you anything. I never did. And from now on, I don't exist to you. I'm done. The silence on the other end was satisfying. Then my father scoffed. So that's it? You're just cutting us off? You cut me off a long time ago, I said simply. I'm just making it official. And with that, I hung up. No screaming, no drama. Just freedom. I blocked their last numbers, deleted every message, and sat back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't carrying their expectations or their guilt. I wasn't their scapegoat. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their backup plan. I was finally free. Last update. I thought they'd back off after I refused. Yeah, no. But now they're finally just a bad memory. And for the first time in my life, I feel free. Write your opinion about this story. You can also share yours in the comments. It will be interesting to read. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Your support is very important to me. Take care of yourself.